Hey everybody, Superstar back with more memories of Star Wars Galaxies. Last time I told the story of how my little town that I lived in with some of my friends was invaded by a lone Dark Jedi. Now I'm back in Theed City, the capital of Naboo, to show how much this game has fallen. Has truly fallen. Because if you look here, this is the spaceport of Theed, and there's no one here. It's the capital city of Naboo. This is one of the main places in the game, and there's one of the transports coming down for landing to... Before ships were, player ships were introduced to the game, you had to buy tickets for the shuttles, and then go talk to this droid, the ticket collector, and you would give him your ticket, and you board the shuttle, and you would go to wherever you were going. Unfortunately, it was not, like you get in the shuttle and then you actually watch as everything goes by. No, it's just a loading screen and you end up wherever you wanted to go. So, I feel a little compelled in this video as I walk around the abandoned capital city of Theed to talk really directly to Sony Online Entertainment. I mean, really, this game could have been so much more. Keeping the original game concept and not making it, where the original game concept was living in the Star Wars universe. I mean, there was little to no story, and to most people, these days, that really puts you off. I mean, and I can understand that. I really enjoy stories in my games too. But what they did is they tried to inject more action and story and adventure into a game that was meant to be a Star Wars life simulator. You were supposed to live and breathe in the Star Wars universe. And that's why there were such things as player cities and player shops. And whenever Sony Online Entertainment decided to go with the new direction and tried to make it more, I guess you would say, story-driven, and action-oriented, it failed, because that's not what this game is at its heart. This game was meant as a way to exist in the Star Wars universe. To leave behind your real life and exist in the Star Wars universe. And that's why, before the new game enhancement, before all of that, that's why this game succeeded. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was never, a smash hit. It never had the number, so to say, World of Warcraft. But it had enough of a population to support the game. And even though there were a lot of complainers and, people saying that the game is fundamentally broken, it really wasn't. It served its purpose. It was a way to live and exist in the Star Wars universe. As I mentioned in my first video, giving a tour of my house, there were something like 32 classes, and then whenever you reached Force sensitivity, the 4 Jedi-related classes opened up. So it was like a total of 36 classes. It may have been 39, I'm not sure. But, anyway, the way the game worked is there were no levels. you know, you couldn't say, oh, I'm level 10 or I'm level 90 or anything like that. The way it worked was you were given a certain number of skill points to spend within the 36 professions. Most people only had the 32, but some had the 36 because they had unlocked for sensitivity. This is the hospital, by the way. I remember sitting in here a lot after I would die and I would have to have my wounds healed in the hospital. If there were no medics or doctors in the game at the moment, you could just sit and your wounds would slowly heal. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, skill points. You would just, as you gained experience, you gained more skill points. So, you were given only a max amount of skill points that you could spend on, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the way it worked is you had an X amount of skill points that you had all the time. But then, to level up your skills, you had to get the XP required to buy those skills from the skill trainers. So, yeah, I got confused there for a second. So, I was thinking of something else. But anyway, yeah, you bought the skills you wanted from the skill trainers using XP as currency. And then once you spent your XP on the skill you wanted, and it could be from any class, you could mix and match from every class you wanted, you know, every class available. But, you know, you would be significantly weaker, you know, as a character if you did it like that. But, if you chose to specialize in a certain class, you know, like say, marksman, there were 4 branches of specialization in the marksman class. So you had pistols, carbines, or carbines, however you want to say it, rifles, and I seem to remember just, you know, combat efficiency. If you, say, maxed out your, proficiency in pistols, the pistolier class would open up, which was totally dedicated to pistol combat. It allowed you to use certain pistols that only a pistolier could use. And, you know, you got extra damage using pistols, certain skills that only a pistolier had, different things like that, but you could specialize. Now, if you played your skill points right, you could have mastered 2 advanced classes with a little bit left over to dabble in, you know, a basic class. So a lot of the times I had the doctor profession mastered at all times because I could heal myself, keep myself alive like almost indefinitely. And I could buff myself and buff others and make money. So I was the doctor class as my secondary, you know, master profession at all times. Whenever I would switch my combat class, I would go with either, one time I was a rifleman, another time I was a carbineer, or carbineer, however you want to say it. Another time I was a Terrace Kasai master, which again was the hand-to-hand specialist. With the Terrace Kasai master, you didn't need armor, you could just wear clothes. And the inherent defense bonuses of the Terrace Kasai master were actually better in some cases than armor. I'm looking in now to the Theed Cantina. This used to be just a buzzing hub of activity. There were musicians always where my cursor is going. I mean, like, all the time, and dancers, typically in the center. All players, of course. And then where I'm standing, there would be, players, watching the musicians and the dancers to be getting buffs from them. As I mentioned, the health, stamina, and mind attributes that you had to buff each one. So, as you can see now, it's just dead. It's quiet. The only noise, I don't know if you can hear it through speakers, but I'm wearing a headset right now, and all I can hear is just the random chatter of NPCs. It's just, you can't hear any words, but, all you hear is just random nothing to try and give the idea of activity. But there used to be people sitting in these little cubby holes, talking and sitting around the tables. I mean, look, Sony didn't even put the effort in to decorate the back of the cantina. Come on. I mean, look, you have all of this room, and you did nothing with it. I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm just only complaining about the game. I loved this game. I mean, it was an obsession for me before the new game enhancement. Just totally ruined it for myself and everyone else. As you can see, I mean, the game would still have musicians and, dancers and everyone watching and all of that here now if Sony Online had not ruined this game. I realize that they say that the game is truly shutting down because LucasArts chose to not renew their rights to the Star Wars property. Their contract to have rights to the Star Wars property. And, yeah, I realize that's the case. But I think that LucasArts is not renewing their license with Sony Online for the Star Wars franchise is because they ruined this game. I think LucasArts, as money hungry as they can be at times, releasing some terrible games, I think they don't want this game, as terrible as it is now, to ruin the image of Star Wars games overall. Again, I'm saying that this game was destroyed. It used to be great. It used to really be something. But the developers over at Sony Online chose to try and change the basic purpose of the game, the core aspect of the game, which is, this is a game where you live in the Star Wars universe. Again, there's no story. You made your own. This game was extremely social, and you had to be social to get by because of the, the player-run shops and the player-run cities. You had to visit the mayor to be able to gain citizenry into a player city. You had to buy houses that the players built. And just overall, to get by in this game, you needed the players. There was no way around it. And just to make it to where the crafting no longer mattered, which seemed to be what happened here. I'm not entirely sure. I never played that many crafting classes. To make the game where the crafting didn't matter as much, and different things like that. And then to strip the game down into 9 classes, going from upwards of possibly 36 to 9, where the game adopted more of a traditional leveling system where you selected your class and you could only be that class for that character's lifetime. And then going through the leveling system like a traditional MMO. Again, they just destroyed one of the greatest things about this game, was that you could do and be whatever you wanted by mixing and matching the classes. I mean, you could be a battle-hardened swordsman, out in the field, and then get back in town and chill out and play your instrument as a master musician and make money from buffing people. But, that was the option that you were given because you were able to mix and match classes. But, which again was another thing that allowed you to live and exist and breathe in the Star Wars universe. Because, really, I realized, that most characters in the Star Wars universe were, specialized, super specialized in certain things. That didn't mean that they, didn't know other things. Like, how do we know that Han Solo didn't know how to play a mean version of a, Star Wars guitar, and chilled out in the cantina doing that, on the scenes that you didn't see in the movies. Things like that. Chilling out with his smuggler friends. But, I don't know why there's Imperial flags with rebel guards. That makes no sense. But, I mean, honestly, I think that more games would do better, especially MMOs, to adopt that kind of character progression system where, you give all of your skill points, from the get-go. But you can't spend those skill points until you have the appropriate amount of XP to buy the skill you want. It just seemed like an ingenious thing. And then allow the players to mix and match in, whatever class they wanted. To specialize in 1 or 2 classes all the way up to mastery, or to just dabble in everything to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Games were, especially MMOs, would do well to allow for that kind of freedom. And I think that was probably one of Galaxy's strongest points. And I think that was one of the most foolish mistakes that Sony Online made, is stripping away that freedom. And, just so you know, if you haven't noticed, I'm in Thebe Palace. You may remember this place from Star Wars Episode 1. Probably do. But anyway. And I also think that developers of MMOs would be wise to allow for, say, more open worlds instead of just closed off, like, theme park type areas where, all you have is the quest area, and then the rest of the planet is off limits. I think it would be wiser to open the planets up like they are here in Galaxies, and allow for player-run cities, and allow for housing that can be placed anywhere outside of the main city bounds. Like, you can't place a house within, I don't know, probably a couple miles from Theed. Just to keep the main game areas unpolluted, I guess you could call it. But, yeah, and then, with the housing systems themselves, allow for complete and total freedom to place, like your decorations and different things like that. And not just like furniture and whatnot. I'm talking anything that you carry in your inventory you can drop and place in your house, like you can here. And not just with say like Lord of the Rings Online. If you've played that game, you know the housing system. You can only buy houses that are within the designated areas, and you can only place decorations in the designated areas. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does really limit your freedom and creativity, because there are some really good interior designers out there, for like gaming houses and things like that, that really spend a lot of time getting everything perfect. And it's really works of art within the game, using the limits of the game. And it's quite impressive. So, those are the things that I think Galaxies did well, but I still can't help but be sad and even a little angry that the core concepts of the game, living and breathing in the Star Wars universe, was exchanged for a poor imitation of, an action-adventure game with skills. I mean, Galaxies was successful. What happened was Sony Online wanted to get the numbers of World of Warcraft. Honestly, that's just not possible. World of Warcraft is its own thing. You can't beat World of Warcraft without being World of Warcraft. And sure, I mean, the Old Republic will probably put a massive dent in World of Warcraft's subscription base. But it won't kill it, because there are some people that hate Star Wars and prefer fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there are some people that hate fantasy and prefer sci-fi, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Personally, I like both, so I play both. But although my World of Warcraft subscription is currently expired, I wanted to save my money for the Old Republic. But anyway, that's off topic. I don't remember ever getting to this gazebo. It's nice. Anyway. Yeah, sorry about that. My stepdad is yelling about the Saints game. But, anyway, I think I'll call it quits for right here. There's nothing really more for me to say. Maybe if I come up with an idea for another story, or remember another story, I should say, I will make another video, possibly zooming around the forests of Yavin 4 or Endor, and different things like that, or just walking around, I'm not sure. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you all next time. Don't forget to check out this game come back to the game before December 15th, 2011. If you want to have one last good time, or at least one last blast from the past. So, thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you all next time. Later.